and enjoy. My friends, it is so amazing that 50 people are hanging out with me on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I have relatives and friends and longtime clients and Ripplers from the very first year, some childhood friends, some people I've just gotten to know. Some of my mutual friends of Marianne Rodmacher are here in the room with me, and it is a joy for me to be with you. I wanted to start today by reading from you from a little book that came into being in 2019 called Ripples for Reflection, Weekly Inspirations for Unleashing Your Best Self by Paul Wesselman, edited by my sweetie. Ripples number 1030 was called Thriving in the Mess. The pebble, remember there's a pebble and a boulder, two quotes and a ponder, the something to think about for the week. The pebbles are quotes submitted by others, and the pebble was shared by Leslie and Madison, one of our very first Ripplers, and is still connected to Ripples to this day. And the quote was attributed to Joanna Gaines. If you know Magnolia, you know Joanna. And it said, I always thought that the thriving would come when everything was perfect. And what I learned is that it's actually down in the mess that things get good. The bolder, a little bit longer quote, this one was shared by Brenda in Dallas, and it was attributed to Kerry Washington, the actress. And it says, I don't have to be perfect. All I have to do is show up and enjoy the messy, imperfect, and beautiful journey of my life. It's a trip more wonderful than I ever could have imagined. And the ponder, the part that I write. Today's pebble and boulder are attributed to strong women who have faced adversity and figured out how to embrace life's inevitable difficulties as opportunities for growth. It's fairly common to believe that our best life begins only when we get a grip on all the big stuff we're currently struggling with and solve all the tiny and titanic problems that have bubbled up in our lives. It's a mythical yet tempting concoction of the grass is always greener, the future will be better, and tomorrow me will have everything together way more than today me does. Here's the thing. While they might be nice to have, it turns out we don't absolutely need greener grass or a brighter future or a better me in order to thrive. We just need to embrace today's grass and today's opportunities and today me. Even the toughest days usually have some nuggets of goodness and joy to be savored. And it's more than possible to get stuff done. Listen to this. It's more than possible to get stuff done even when our best me isn't available for appearances on a particular day. And the bonus treat is that anytime today me is able to eke out even a teensy bit of progress, it makes things easier and better for tomorrow me. And I know for certain that today me is deeply appreciative of so many things that several versions of yesterday me accomplished. So join us in thriving amidst whatever messiness exists in your life right now. Invite today you to cut yesterday you some slack while tackling a few things to help tomorrow you thrive even more. Work some, play some, and grow some. And go to bed early enough to rest up so we can do it all again with tomorrow you. Are you in? Peace, Paul. You made it to here. You made it to now. You made it to today. If you've hung out with me in person, if you've hung out with me on a Zoomy Zoom, you've probably heard me say what used to be a secret little private ritual that I did before every presentation was to go in a corner, take 3 deep breaths, and think here on the inhale and now on the exhale. Could you do that with me now? Just take 3 deep breaths. Here now, here now, here now. It might be helpful if you're a note taker to have a piece of paper with me. Some people from hanging out with me in this particular content that I'm going to share with you have told me an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper folded in a certain way that I'll share with you in a second. If you're not a paper person, if you're not a note taker, sit back. It's all good. This recording is, I'm going to send you a link of, and we'll send you all the links as well. And here's the truth. You're going to forget all of this, and that's okay. You're going to be able to remember the stuff that really, really counts. And then the other thing I need to ask you is, how are you today, right here, right now? How are you? If I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, and I ask you to think about your energy level, your mood, and you're not needing to please anyone, you're not needing to pretend, you're telling yourself the truth. And I would love it if you, on a scrap piece of paper or on your 8.5 by 11, if you just wrote down a number on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you right now? And I'm going to play along with you. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the lowest number that you've hit on a regular basis in the last few months? And what's the highest number you've hit on a regular basis in the last few months? And I'm going to ask you to write those down next to the number and maybe put them in parentheses with a little dash. And I'll show you what mine looks like. I asked myself when I asked you, how am I feeling? And the number 8 popped up. And then next to it, I wrote 2 to 8, because that is the range that regularly I have been hitting. And if you would have told me a year and a half ago that I, the Ripples guy, would regularly be hovering around a 2, 3, 4, I would say, no way. I live in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range. Yes, I have bad days. For a second, they don't last. And I am so grateful that one of the very first things I did in the time of COVIDia, when it looked like we were going to be locked down for a few weeks, or maybe a few months, that in order to get all the way to Memorial Day, I was going to have to tend to the fact that my desk was getting less messy, my mind was getting overwhelmed, I wasn't feeling as creative, and I was scattered. And I reached out to Irene, this magnificent woman who I met in my Madison days 20 years ago when I was first getting started in my business, who had a company called Ducks in a Row. And she took her experience as a counselor and was helping people get their lives organized. And I reached out to her on LinkedIn. I said, I don't know if you remember me. I don't know. I worked with you 20 years ago. Are you still doing your thing? I need a consult. And she says, she reached back. She goes, of course I remember you. It was great fun to work with you. I'm not doing that full time anymore, but let's hop on a call. And I got on this call and I had my little list because I wanted to make the most of it. All the things I wanted to be better than I was. And my desk was messy and my files were messy and my brain was messy. And I start describing it. She says, Paul, stop. She says, Paul, your expectations are so high. And we are going through a period of great uncertainty, of great change. And it's sort of like when your system, your computer system, your phone is getting a system upgrade. She had me grab my phone. She says, you know how when you're upgrading the apps on your phone, you can still do other stuff, but it's just slower? She said, we're going through a massive system upgrade. And if you spend too much energy worried about the fact that you're not as creative as you usually are, you're not at problem solving like usual, you're not as good in lots of ways, you're going to miss out on the fact that, of course, some of your processing power is being taken up by grappling with the strangest, hardest, weirdest thing that your life has encountered possibly ever, or at least in a really long time. And it managed my expectations, and it made a huge difference. And what has come out of this is a deep understanding that 8 is the new 10 for me. I don't hit 9 and 10 nearly as often as I did. And that 8 feels pretty darn amazing. I can effectively live my life. I can be good at my job and in my life when I'm at 3, 4, 5. I can be just fine. And if I manage my expectations, it's more than enough. I might be curious right now if some of you felt comfortable in the chat window sharing your numbers. Could you type in, if you feel comfortable, what's the number you wrote down, and then in parentheses, what's the lowest and the highest? And I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna type it in myself. Krista jumped right in there. Oh, Krista, hello, Krista. Good to see you here. Renee, thank you. Oh my gosh, you guys. Marianne M. Rodmacher is in the house. So here I'm telling a little story about her, and she's actually here with us. Woo, shut up. Thank you all. So this is what I want you to notice in this amazing string of numbers. Notice that there's lots of people that have been all over the place, and that it's okay. Wherever you're at is just fine. There is a part of me that hopes at the end of the time, whatever number you're feeling is maybe up a little bit. But as I say that to you out loud, I know that that's a wish that isn't necessary for you and I to have a good experience today. What most of you know is that hours into the time of COVIDia, when the lockdown happened and they told me a bunch of big sporting events were canceled and that Broadway, my people love the Broadway, was going to shut down for 2 weeks. And I did not remember a time. Broadway went dark a night here, a night there. I think there were a couple, I forgot how long it was closed, around 9/11, but very quickly it opened back. And I knew at that day, this is big. And I emailed, and in fact, I still have my email. This is such a tangent. I still have my email I was typing to Kelsey. Kelsey, did I accidentally kick you out of the Zoom meeting just now? But you're here, so I can close that. I want to show you, I dug up the draft of the sticker that I made, that I texted to my graphic designer on March 12th at 5:00 p.m. And if you didn't hear us at the beginning, what I'm doing here in the chat window is I'm putting a couple links that you should be able to open just clicking and it'll open in your browser window. And you should see the little drawing that I cut out that says, "We got this." And around the edge of the blue heart, it says open hearts, curious minds, social distance, clean hands. Because in the first hours, I thought what I need to do is focus on these really specific things to help us. And within 48 hours, that had evolved into curious minds, open hearts, and calm spirits while we nurture our health. And then, thanks to a really cool conversation with my buddy Toby, and I said, I think I can turn this into a presentation that I'm confident that I can share online with some people to see if they can help them. And I had tapped into something I said in my change and challenge workshops about the surviving and reviving and thriving. And when I conceptualized dealing with change, dealing with challenge in my presentations, I told people there's 3 modes. Oh, and in fact, I gotta show you the turtles. These are the turtles of change. And this wasn't a slide I was using when I was switched over to this, using the chat window to show slides. And somebody who saw the presentation and saw the slideshow said, you can't forget the turtles. The turtles are important. So what we've got here on this slide is 3 turtles. One of them is in surviving mode, where the hashtag is don't die. Ah! And then the reviving turtle is exhausted but determined to hashtag get better. And then there's a wild looking turtle who's ready to thrive and hashtag kick butt. And that was how I thought about dealing with challenge, dealing with change. First, we got to survive. If your life is threatened, if you think your life is threatening, if your system feels like their life is threatened, we got to tend to surviving mode. When you're done with that, then you can revive, you can get better, you can get back to normal or create a new normal. And when you're ready, you can thrive. And my friend Toby said to me, love the setup, like the rhyming, here's the challenge. Today, I have felt at some moments that I was doing just great. And then the next moment, I feel like I was drowning. And then a little bit better, I thought, well, I know what to do. And the other thing he said is, I feel like there's some areas of my life where I'm really doing well and some areas that I'm struggling. So I really credit that conversation with coming this idea, somebody's getting a phone call. And I thought it was mine. I was like, oh, my buddy Toby's calling me. Nope, it's not. And so what I ended up doing is saying to myself and to the first people that saw this presentation, let's take a look at curious minds and open hearts and calm spirits while we nurture our health. And for each of those 4 areas, what is the way in which If you're really struggling, you can have some surviving action. And then get better or get a new normal, get back to normal, reviving, and how can you kick butt? So our journey for the next 15, 20 minutes is to take a look at the sticker, the we got this sticker. And what I've got here for you is a blank version of the slide that at the end of the presentation, I will give you another link that has the full. And I'll tell you what, the email I just sent you all beforehand, just an hour before the presentation, or for some of you a few minutes, it does have these links in them as well. So this blank slide that comes up, and this is where a piece of paper folded into quarters might be of value to you, because you'll see the sticker is in the middle. Curious minds, open hearts, calm spirits, nurturing your health. And the idea is each one of these quadrants could represent one of these 4 areas. And then what we're going to do, if you'll see the little legend at the bottom where it says S equals surviving, R equal reviving, T equal thriving. For each of these sections, what I want you to do is think about where you're at and which one of these could help boost you to the next level. So we're going to start with curious minds. I've already asked you how you're doing. And I want you to notice that when you're really overwhelmed and your thoughts and your feelings are racing, or you just don't even know how you are, you're so freaked out, the surviving mode is just to pause long enough to notice what you're thinking and what you're feeling. So if you're a fill in the blank kind of person, it's just going to say, notice what you're thinking and feeling. And if I ask you right now, what are you thinking right now? What are you feeling right now? What have you been thinking about a lot lately? What are the thoughts that keep coming up? What are the feelings that keep recurring a lot? Jot a couple down for yourself. I'm going to give you the option to share a couple things, but it's an option. You don't have to participate if you do not want to. And then for some of you, and again, if you're writing down, what am I feeling? What am I thinking right now? What have I been feeling a lot of? What have I been feeling? What have I been thinking about a lot lately? I would love it if some of you would write into the chat window, what are the thoughts? What are the feelings that have been coming up a lot for you? How can I get from there to here to there? It seems impossible. I appreciate your honesty. Calm, disappointment, missing friends and family, frustration. It is useful for us, for ourselves, to be able to notice what we're thinking and feeling. And while people are, if they're, for the folks who are feeling comfortable sharing, it's good for us all to see people are all over the place. Sometimes in the very same line, you'll see some what we might call positive things and some struggling hard things. The first thing, you don't have to do anything with them. You just got to notice them. And something amazing happens when you notice what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And I will start with thoughts and say, if I'm thinking about my taxes and okay, I got to make sure my taxes are done and make sure they're done right. When I say that to myself, when I notice I'm thinking about the taxes, I'm not just a person who's thinking about the taxes. I'm the person who's also aware that I'm thinking about taxes. And as soon as I become aware that I'm thinking about taxes, I'm no longer just a person who's thinking about taxes and who's aware they're thinking about taxes. I'm aware that I'm aware. I'm not my thoughts. I'm the person thinking them. When we say in English, I'm tired, I'm angry, technically, what we actually mean is I'm not anger. I'm a person feeling anger. And I will say, I think when you're noticing your feelings, it's helpful to say, I am feeling anger and not I am angry, because we sometimes get confused because we're not our anger. We're the person feeling it. And when you become aware of that, you're no longer just a person who's feeling anger. You're a person who's aware. And then instantly, you're a person who's aware that you're aware. And there's a little bit of space between what you're feeling and what is going to happen next. And there's this great saying that you may have heard attributed to Viktor Frankl. And it is actually written in a book by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He said he found it in a book in a library in Hawaii. We've never been able to find the book. And it says, in between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is the power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. And so if surviving is just becoming aware of what we're thinking and feeling, the reviving strategy is being able to choose our focus. Thoughts come up. We do not get to choose what we think and what we feel. They happen to us. We get to choose what to focus on and what to do with those thoughts and what to do with those feelings. Do we need to stop and tend to them? Do we need to write them down and put them somewhere that we promise we'll deal with them a little bit later because we need to focus on something else right now? Some of you know from my weekly ripples that I recently, a few months ago, my aunt, Sister Miriam Tootsie, who I love so much, gosh, one of the first people I'm going to hug when we get past all this, introduced me to Tara Brach's metaphor, RAIN, R-A-I-N. And I don't want to dive too deep here or we'll get off track and we'll be late, but her acronym, which is a tweak on another acronym that's out there, is to recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture our feelings. And I just saw another acronym, actually just reading an article yesterday that just uses the acronym STOP. And the S stands for stop. The T, what did the T stand for? It's I forgot what the term was. It was basically identify what you're feeling, and then O is observe it. Oh no, take a breath. Stop, take a breath, observe, and then the P is proceed. Because when you're ready to thrive, when it comes to curious minds, the thriving activity is to be able to pivot to growth. Many people on this call will nod when I say fixed mindset versus growth mindset. I was introduced to that term several years ago, and now my Procter and Gamble peeps are use that in their organization all the time. Just about every educator I know, they're teaching it to 5th graders. They're teaching it in every place. And if you don't know about growth versus fixed mindset, it's worth Googling to find out that there's these ways that we sometimes get locked into thinking, and fixed mindset people tend to think of their success as based on how talented they are, how good they are right now. And when they reach their limits, they think, oh, I've reached my limits. I'm not smart enough to be any better than this. I'm not good enough to do any more than this. And growth mindset people, when they hit their limit, when they have a setback, they say, oh, I must have not been doing something right. I need to try a little harder. I need to try something a little different. And one of the great things is, even though we find that some people are more growth mindset oriented and some people are more fixed mindset oriented, that growth mindset can be grown by anyone who wants to have a little bit more of a growth mindset. You add the word yet. I can't do this yet. This is really hard right now. What do I need to do to get a little better, to be a little bigger, catch my breath and ask for help and try something else? So curious minds, very simply, notice and then choose and then pivot to growth when you're ready. And if pivoting to growth sounds too hard, that means you're not ready for it. That means you need to go back to notice your thoughts and feelings. It means going back to choosing your focus. I'm going to focus on this now and write this down to be later. I'm going to reach out to my counselor. I'm going to journal a little bit. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to choose what I'm going to focus on now. And then when I'm ready, let's revisit this idea of how can I turn this into a growth mindset? And then we get to move and turn our attention from curious minds over to open hearts. And very briefly, to tell you, when I created this sticker, I was thinking about, and you'll see on the slide, it says gratitude, compassion, and generosity. And my thought when I first created this sticker is that open hearts was about extending gratitude, compassion, and generosity to the people around us. But when I sat down to think about surviving, reviving, thriving, what's the surviving energy here? It's about applying these towards ourselves. So the surviving energy, if you're filling in the blanks, it's towards self, gratitude towards yourself, compassion towards yourself, generosity, cutting yourself some slack for you. And then when you're ready to go from surviving to reviving, that's when you extend it out to the people you care about, to the people in normal circumstances that it's easy for you to extend compassion and generosity and gratitude. The thriving, this is the kicking butt part, and it sometimes kicks our butt because the thriving energy is extending compassion and gratitude and generosity to the people that we sometimes struggle with sharing these things, for people we don't have positive regard and trust and respect. And it is really, really hard. It's not for beginners. It's an advanced skill. When we're ready, it's pretty powerful. Some of you know that a year ago yesterday, my buddy Toby that I mentioned earlier hopped on a phone call. We were wrapping up from a quick hour. I told him about my sticker. We were starting to talk about things. And he said, as we were wrapping up, he said something about washing hands. And I said, I am so sick of singing happy birthday. I am so tired. Because remember, that was the thing we were supposed to do get 20 seconds. Happy birthday to you. And it was driving me crazy. Our phone call was supposed to end, and it went on for 3 more hours. And what we came up with was what some of you know as the hand washing meditation. Right now, I'm doing the best I can. Sometimes my best may not seem good enough. For now, my best is the best I got. Right now, other people are doing the best they can. Sometimes their best may not seem good enough. For now, their best is the best they got. Third stanza, right now, we are all doing the best we can. Sometimes our best may not seem good enough. For now, our best is the best we've got. Let me pause and do 2 things real quick. I want to share the link here. I'm also going to put this in an email to you. And this is a little image. Toby, in addition to being a speaker like myself, he is also a graphic designer. And he put that together a year ago. And we have shared that, gosh, so many times. And then here is the text of it if you'd like. Again, I'm going to email this to you too. It isn't always easy to extend gratitude and compassion and generosity to all beings. You need to start with surviving and being able to put it to yourself. When you're ready, reviving energy is about extending it to other people that it's relatively easy for you to extend gratitude, compassion, generosity to. When you're ready to grow, when you're ready to thrive, test the waters. Who's someone that pisses you off a little bit? See how it feels to just wish them well. Not even engaging with them, not approving of them, not forgiving them, not needing them to be different than who they are. And then try it on somebody else. Because when you're ready, when you've got a curious mind that you're firing up, when you've got an open heart, we can tend to our calm spirit. And the very simple energy, if I have you pause right now and just take a here now deep breath. The reason that works is because it helps us find our center. And that's the surviving energy of a calm spirit, is finding your center. If you've taken a meditation class, if you've started using a meditation app like I have, I've used Calm and Insight Meditation and Headspace. I've used a bunch. Right now, I'm pretty focused on the Calm app. And over the classes I've taken, the instruction is when your mind wanders, without judgment, to bring it back to the thing that you're focusing on, the breath, a word, whatever, the image, whatever the little focus is. And returning to your center, that's the reviving energy. It's not about beating yourself up. And I've been meditating today. I think my Calm app told me it was the 152nd day in a row that I've meditated. for 10 minutes. And just this morning, I caught myself at least twice, not only with wondered mind, but going, oh, when am I going to get this right? And over, I have to remind myself, this is how it's done. Is focusing on your breath, finding your center, and then when you notice you've drifted, without judgment, without harshness, to say, oh, look, I'm not focused on my breath. And then you return to your center. The thriving energy, the third piece of it, the little green T, if you're writing this down, is not staying in your center for weeks and months at a time. No, it is lingering in your center for a few moments, maybe a few minutes. Because calm spirits are simply about finding your center, returning to your center, and lingering in your center. And I can tell you that from making time over and over again for a 10-minute, if you know the Calm app, Jeff Warren's Daily Trip, that is my go-to daily. I love his voice. I love what he shares. He talks to himself sometimes about his little brother. He's like, hey, little brother, it's okay. And I feel like he's this big brother that's just an addition to my family, that he just talks to me in just such a calm, beautiful way. Love it. And yes, I have a little crush on him. Stop judging me right this second. Jamie knows. He's forgiven me. Jeff's on my list, all right? Let us go from a calm spirit over to nurturing your health, because I've got some surprises and stuff I want to share with you before we run out of time, and I want to make sure we get to our 4 pieces. When I first was putting this together, remember how the draft of the sticker, it said social distance and clean hands. That was what I was focused on. And really quickly, I realized, number one, I don't know what the health advice is going to be, but I know that nurturing your health is important. And originally, I was thinking, how do we help people minimize the chance they get COVID, minimize the impact if they do get sick, and then minimize the impact on the healthcare system, which really needed and still needs our help. And when I decided to set this out into a little bit larger of a presentation, and I'm thinking about surviving and reviving and thriving, I tapped into 2 places. My days as a Boy Scout, I'm proud to be an Eagle Scout, and my EMT training that I took in college. And what I learned and what I call surviving energy here is the assessing and triaging. Mm-hmm. The first thing you do when you fall and hurt yourself, the smart thing to do is not move until you do a little assessment and you triage. What's the biggest injury? What's the thing that if I move could cause the biggest problem? If I have a broken arm and I'm really, really seriously bleeding, the bleeding is more important, because I might even have to hurt my broken arm in order to tend to my bleeding. If you come up on an accident scene and there's multiple people hurt, do a quick scan. What are the injuries? Who's most hurt? That's where you put your attention first. Reviving is about applying first aid. So after you do this assessment, and when I'm thinking about nurturing health, I want you to hear me say, physical health, absolutely. Mental, emotional health, yes. Spiritual health, yes, that too. We're really looking at an all-encompassing view of health. And so you check in with your body, how am I doing? You check in with your mind, how am I doing? You know, there's first aid, first responders. There's all these courses that you can take about taking first aid. I had no idea until very recently that someone told me that there is now mental health first aid, and there are first responders that can be trained in workplaces, in schools, to know a little bit about emotional first aid, mental health first aid, so that just like with people who have a little bit of first aid, physical first aid, that they can apply while they're calling for help, getting other folks involved. Thriving is about maximizing well-being. And on so many of my visits to college campuses, even the health center in a lot of places I go is no longer called the health center. It's referred to as the wellness center or well-being center. I know places that are combining what some of us remember going to see the nurse, going to see a doctor, with going to work out. with going to see a counselor, that those are all being put in the same facilities to remind us that this whole idea that body is over here and mind is over here and spirit is over here is a little bit artificial anyway. And that all of these things are designed to maximize well-being, that healthiness, there's two important concepts about health I want you to know. First of all, that you're healthy right now. When I ask people, are you healthy right now? Most people can think of a way that they don't consider themselves healthy. Well, I got this thing with my leg. Well, I've noticed I'm still recovering from, I got the second vaccine and it hurts. If you can take a breath, you have some health. You have health. You are healthy. Could you be healthier? Yes. If you have cancer cells in your body right now, you still have health. You also have some illness present, and you have health. And so one important thing is for you to be able to identify yourself as healthy right here, right now. The second thing is you can be healthier if you remember that health is more than just not being sick. And one of the greatest things I learned 20 years ago in grad school is this idea when I took over as the coordinator of the Student Wellness Center, is the idea of wellness at its core was the idea that health was more than just not being sick, that there are positive states of wellness, the way there are states of illness that are range from mild to medium to really serious. And the question is, what could you be working on? When you're ready to thrive, what could you be working on in order to kick butt? And what I'm going to do here is wrap this up so that I can pause the presentation or stop the recording. And then I want to share with some little treats and presents for some of you all that for people watching this video, email me and I'll get you all those stuff. But I don't want to tell the whole world about all these cool things we're doing. So the last thing I'll have you do is to take a look at your notes if you took them. Take a look at the sticker if it's up on your screen. And if it's not, curious minds, open hearts, calm spirits while you nurture your health. There are all types of moments in a day where you can need surviving and reviving and or thriving in these areas. And the idea and what I wanted to present in less than a half hour was to give you options, easy to remember, that you can think about, feel, and do. And what I'm going to do right there is say thank you to the folks who are watching this online. And I will put a link in the, wherever this video you see it, there should be links down there so that you can get the handouts and the links to this. Thank you for watching.